Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. Broadcasting throughout the United Kingdom and around the world, we're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m, broadcasting on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on TikTok simultaneously. And folks, on TikTok, the best viewing experience is found on YouTube, but please do stick with us. Fire in your comments and your questions, and if we like them, we'll give you a shout out. So please send in your comments on this busy political day as well, because on this day we've been informed that the SNP are going to try to have another destructive, divisive, anti-UK referendum, and they've named the month at least, which is October next year. So are they going to get it? What are they going to do between now and then? And what are they going to do if they don't get it? We're going to be talking about those things this evening, and we'll be very interested in your comments as well, which we'll read out if you send them in. But we've got our own policy on that, and we'll get to that as well. And then at the bottom of the hour, we will have our competition, which follows shortly after our On This Day in British History Matters section. We've also got Busting Indy Myths Part 15 coming up, which is very relevant to the question of a second UK referendum. And we're going to be reading out your comments and questions. And we've also got a very exciting announcement about activism 2 Saturdays from now, which you're going to love because it's a fantastic idea. And we're going to be out in a certain town in Scotland. And we're going to have this most amazing rally. So stick with us for the news of that as well. That's all coming up very shortly. And look at all the folk who've come in. Debbie was first there, as always. Good evening to you, Debbie. Good evening to that Preston journalist. We always suggest, if you're on YouTube, Google that Preston journalist, search for him, and you will find his regular videos, which are absolutely top notch. That Preston journalist, good to see you in the house. Hello to TC, to fellow unionists from around the globe. Always nice to see Frankie as well, and to Kenny from East Kilbride. And Adam says, we've a lot to talk about, especially the fake Indy Ref 2 announcement. Well, isn't it just a fake? Catherine says, hello everyone, as does Stephen says, hi all. And Stuart says, good evening. Glad you got the British Together hoodie. And Pauline says, good evening all. We're going to read out something that Pauline actually said on Facebook today, because I thought that she summed it up extremely well this morning. We'll read that out in a few moments. And hi to Kiyoshi, says, let's go. Absolutely, let's go. And to Nathan, made a good comment on our Facebook page today, Nathan, about the sheer nastiness of everything that's going on. Ian, good to see you back in Scotland. Why are we still all hanging on Sturgeon's every word? This supposed referendum is only as important as the media makes it out to be. Well, the thing that you're right, totally, Ian, but the thing is the media is going to make it out to be very important. And that's part of Sturgeon's strategy, is she understands that the Scottish media are hanging on, as you put it, her every word. And therefore, if she makes a big thing about it, she can be guaranteed that the media will make a big thing about it as well. The media will not really say the sorts of things that we're about to say to her. Folks, please share, please like, please comment, and if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Hello to Peter and to Ira. Stuart loved his hoodie. Good, cool hoodie. And, well, as Stephen says here, with the majority of councils under unionist control, how can any referendum that's not legal hold up? Indeed, are these unionist councils going, or pro-UK councils, are they going to go along with such a referendum? I think Sturgeon is hoping it doesn't even get that far, and she'll just make a big fuss. We'll speak about that in a moment. Hi folks. Now, yes, so today what happened was Angus Robertson said, after Nicola Sturgeon did her announcement yesterday, Angus Robertson said that it's going to be, in their books, it's going to be in October next year, which of course is a very short time frame, and of course they're just playing at it, but they will speak very seriously about having this referendum next year, and they're going to work to it, and they're working on two assumptions. One, the media will do everything that they say, and the media will fawn and amplify every word that they say. That's the first assumption they're working on. And the second assumption they're working on is that many of their supporters do not understand and are not interested in the constitutional niceties of whether a devolved parliament can do something vis-a-vis the wider British government and parliament's control. They know their supporters are not interested in that, so they can just talk the game about how poor old Scotland is being democratically denied its democratic rights. And a lot of people will fall for that, and they know that. And so they know that they don't have to speak with constitutional exactitude. They just need to shout loudly, and they know that a lot of those words will hit the right ears. But their agenda is, as we always say, and as we said today, is by being denied their October 2023 referendum, they are hoping to turn people in Scotland, the majority of people in Scotland, against, you name it, the United Kingdom, against the Tories, against Westminster, against the British Parliament, against, whisper it, the English, and against Uncle Tom Cobley and all. In other words, their agenda is to create this anger among Scottish people about being denied their democratic right. And they're hoping that they will create enough ill will that by the time the 2024 British general election rolls around, that they will then have sufficient energy and sufficient votes to sweep the board. And that might work. It might work, because we know we do have a very divisive media which will amplify their every word. However, it could also work the other way. It could work in such a way that by the time the British general election rolls around, the people are absolutely sick to death of hearing about the SNP. The people might be absolutely sick to death about hearing all of this division. So they're playing a dangerous game. They're playing with fire because they know that it could work against them. They're hoping, though, that the generation of all this ill will work in their favour. But remember, it could work against them. That's what we have to hope for. Now, I mentioned Pauline earlier, and I just want to read out what she said in her Facebook post yesterday, titled Sturgeon's Two-Finger Salute to Democracy. In the midst of a cost of living crisis, a pandemic recovery period, and with a war going on in the world, Sturgeon is launching yet another advertising campaign to push for separation. Once again, she is spinning the nightmare that Scotland should go it alone and put £20 million meant for the people of Scotland to improve our lives and services stolen to fund that disaster that continues without end. And let's remember that, £20 million. She hasn't been properly pulled up for that. There will be fine words, pretty pictures, and this scene setter will look at other small successful countries, which of course are quite different to Scotland and in no way mirror Scotland's exact position, because we'll get to it in a minute, but Scotland's an extremely unique country in the world. I'm guessing the many small independent countries that they quote that are poor and struggling will not be mentioned. Once again, Sturgeon talks of democracy while ignoring the referendum of 2014, where the message was loud and very clear to stay in the UK. Democracy to Sturgeon apparently means ignoring the wishes of that majority. So the starting gun has been fired yet again on a second referendum, and the important questions about currency, defence, pensions, trade, massive deficit, unsustainable public sector, ageing population, etc. will never be answered. Truth has no place in the SNP propaganda that is about to be pushed in our faces. So true. And that point about democracy is so very valuable, because what we are going to be hearing now for, well, we've been hearing it a lot, but we're going to hear it even more, is that you can see what they're doing. They're trying to create a word association in our heads between and with the word undemocratic and the word United Kingdom. You see it now in every sentence. They throw in not just the Tories or Boris Johnson, but they throw in the very name of our country, the United Kingdom, and they'll throw in the word undemocratic. So they're trying to create a subliminal, hypnotic association between the words UK, United Kingdom, and undemocratic. And they're going to push that and push that and push that. And with some people, I'm afraid they will be successful in pushing that word association game, but we've got to be wise to that, and we've got to remember that democracy is on our side as well. And we need to hear the British parliamentary representatives and unionists and pro-UK people emphasising this point about democracy as well. And let me just get into it. You know, we need to go after the SNP on this idea of democracy. So far, I've never seen a media person going after the SNP when they talk about democracy. I've never seen someone saying, look, we had a referendum in 2014 which was democratically won by the biggest turnout in Scotland ever. Are you going to respect that vote? Because that's a democratic vote. And that's the biggest democratic vote Scotland's ever had. How about respecting that vote? Okay? Where are the journalists who are going to say that? Where are the MPs who are saying that? The MSPs need to step up and say that. And of course, some of them are doing very good work in trying to get that point across as well. So we need the UK government to set the narrative. Right now, the narrative, to use the modern phrase, otherwise known as setting the agenda. The agenda is being set by the Scottish National Party and by Nicola Sturgeon. That agenda needs to be taken out of our hands, ripped out of our hands, and we need a British government to stand up proudly for the United Kingdom and say, no, Sturgeon, you're the undemocratic one. We love the United Kingdom. We want the United Kingdom to continue. We have an absolute right and duty to stand by our nation and preserve it and maintain it and promote it. And we are going to do that. Okay, we need somebody strong to stand up and say that. We need to control the agenda. And here's some points that can be made. One, as I've just said, the UK government, the UK Parliament, and the government that is formed from that Parliament has an absolute democratic right and a national duty to stand up for the United Kingdom and its integrity. That's number one, and they must do so. It's for the British government to hold Britain together, just as much as the SNP and Greens will try to tear it apart. And it shouldn't be shy about holding it together, because the British Parliament right now has a democratic mandate to hold it together. Now, we've got a graphic here of the result in 2019 at the 2019 British general election, okay, and we'll put it up, and there you can see that the total vote of the parties in Scotland that were against a second referendum comes to 54% of the total votes cast. The total vote for parties in Scotland which were for a second referendum, that's to say the SNP and the Greens, that comes to 46% of total votes. Okay, not much different actually from the result back in 2014. Okay, so you can see that the British Parliament and the government that has been formed from it has an absolute democratic mandate to keep the UK together. And as we always say, so long as the SNP keeps sending MPs to Westminster, they're acknowledging that fact. And they should be okay with that fact, because they're taking part in the British governmental process to keep the UK together. And of course, we must always point out, as we have done there, that it's the SNP which is not respecting the democratic vote of 2014. The biggest vote in Scotland's history. And on top of that, something that we should be doing is making it against the law for the Holyrood executive, which is to say the SNP and Greens, making it against the law for them to use the British civil service to promote, to undertake work, to prepare in any way for separation. There should simply be a law against that, and we spoke last week about Lord Folkes's attempts to at least raise this matter. Now, when are the British government going to step up and do that? Okay, that's called taking the initiative. That's called controlling the agenda. That's called controlling the narrative. They need to stand up and do that. And of course they'll take flack for that. And of course they'll be accused of this, that and the next thing. But they have to weather that storm. You know, here's an article that appeared in the Daily Telegraph last week when the SNP released legal advice. And the legal advice mentioned that it is within the Scottish administration's powers to, quote, undertake policy development work, preparing proposals for separation and in calling for a transfer of power. It's within their power to do that, but it should not be within their power to get the civil service to undertake, quote, policy development work, preparing proposals for such a matter. That should not be within their gift. It's absurd that you and I and British taxpayers are having to pay for that. The British government enabling civil servants that it controls to break up the United Kingdom. An utterly absurd turn of affairs. But this is what we've got right now with the British government. So that's an easy thing they can do. They can simply make that illegal. And I have not yet heard a good argument why that should not be made illegal. And if the SNP want to continue that kind of work, that's entirely up to them. They can pay for it on their own dime. They can pay for it out of SNP party coffers. But don't ask me and you to pay for it. So let me just bring this little section here to a close. I was reading this article by Penny Mordaunt in the Telegraph, and she quoted something which I'm going to read at the moment. She was talking about D-Day, which was on the 6th of June, the 78th anniversary of that day, and she was minded of a film called This Happy Breed, and in it a First World War veteran attempted to cheer up his service-aged, bewildered and disheartened son with these words, quote, he said, "I belong to a generation of men, most of whom aren't here anymore. And we all did the same thing for the same reason, no matter what we thought about politics. Now that's all over and done with, and we're carrying on, just as nothing had happened. But as a matter of fact, several things happened, and one of them was this country suddenly got tired. She's tired now, but the old lady's got stamina, make no mistake about that. And it's up to us ordinary people to keep things steady. And that's your job. And just remember that. It's up to us ordinary people to keep things steady. And that's your job. Let's just remember that. You know, in the next year, in the next 2 years, we're all going to have to keep things steady because we're going to be surrounded by somewhat of a storm. And we are surrounded by many people who think that the best way forward for Scotland is to divide the Scottish people against themselves on a very serious matter. And that's not a good thing. And the only way that we can deal with that is to remain steady. Keep the ship of state steady on its course. Take the long view. Don't panic. And just keep the ship steady. And know that in the end, we will prevail. Let's have a look at some of the comments. What's Alistair Melvin saying? Thank you, Ada, Alistair. Ian says, is the thing being proposed an unofficial, unilateral, non-binding poll? I try not to pay attention to the to the confused old gas bag. Well, it's what's being proposed is meant to be an official poll. Sandra continues the nautical metaphor and says, we need a decent helmsman. That's true, don't we just? And Gavin sums up the SNP when he says they're just a separatist pressure group. They're not actually governing, are they? Everything they're doing, they seem to be just messing up everything they try to turn their attention to. In fact, we've got a cartoon there by Ian Greer. I think it must have appeared, I don't know, in the Scotsman. It was just maybe today or yesterday. And it shows Nicola Sturgeon there attempting to govern, and basically everything is a disaster, whether that's food banks, whether it's unaffordable housing, whether it's NHS waiting times, whether it's ScotRail cancellations, whether it's petrol hitting £100, whether it's your so-called green energy bill going through the roof, not to mention all the litter on the ground, not to mention all the puppetry there from the Scottish Cabbage Party, and in the background the supporters of Nicola Sturgeon lining up. Do you know that guy Ian Greer? He's got some really cutting arguments. It's probably, I can't speak for him politically, I don't know, but you get the impression that he's not a fan of the Sturge there. And that appeared in a British paper. I'm pretty sure it was a Scotsman. If anybody can confirm that for me, please confirm that for me. Okay. That's a good one. That's a good one. We've actually got quite a few of his in our detailed files. And MN says, the referendum is a distraction from the SNP's terrible record. Yes, that's what it's like, isn't it? Just an absolute distraction. And Richard puts into words what a lot of us are worried about, which is we are still together. But the issue is Westminster seems reluctant to cease this nonsense, doesn't it? Just. And Ziggs the Wolf says, this doesn't stop at Indy Ref 1, 2 or 3. That's the thing, you see. People say, oh, even if they lost such a second divisive referendum that somehow they would go away. No, they would just continue on for number 3. The only way to put it to bed is if a referendum happened and if it was won by a greater margin than last time. That would knock their socks off. But if they win by the same or less of a margin, then they'll just game on for number 3. So, but I had a good wee interview with a podcaster called Amiable Arguments, and we touched on this. In our broadcast, an hour-long broadcast, which we'll put up the link there. You'll find the link in the comments. And we spoke about this idea that, you know, it's not going to go away even if they lose it, they have to lose it by a greater margin. And there's just no benefit for us unionists at this stage to even contemplate having a second referendum. And it's not appropriate either for a British government to risk the union on a casual throw of the dice. Because this chap called Luca, he says to me, you know, how can you imagine if they did win, what would be the effect on Scotland? And I said to him, look, this isn't about the effect on Scotland. This is about the effect on the world. Britain, the United Kingdom, is one of the top 5 most powerful nations in the world. You're talking about the destruction of the United Kingdom. If the UK collapses, an awful lot of what's going on in the world as well will also collapse, okay? This is like a worldwide revolutionary sort of thing. This isn't something you're just playing about with. This is destroying one of the world's most ancient nations, the United Kingdom, okay? This is the depth that this goes at. That's why I get passionate about it, because this isn't just like, oh, Scotland can be like Malta, you know? And I say that Scotland can be like Malta because some bloody idiot, excuse me for swearing, he actually said that in an article which I've got somewhere here. Oh, here it is, back here. Okay, top academic. Well, when the National quotes a top academic, you can take that with a gallon of salt. Okay, top academic. If Malta can do it, why not Scotland? Okay, well, last time I looked at Malta, right, it was not connected with an island archipelago with 4 other nations attached to it, all of whom also called themselves Maltese. Okay, you cannot compare apples with oranges. Okay, Malta is a small, beautiful island in the Mediterranean, which I've been in twice, by the way. Lovely, lovely harbour there. Great little island, but it's a little island in the Mediterranean. It's not Scotland. Scotland is utterly unique. We're part of the British Isles with 4, 5, if you want to include the Republic of Ireland, groups of people, all of whom are extremely similar, many of whom all call ourselves British, okay? You want to destroy that? It's nothing to do with comparing ourselves to Malta or Iceland or some other tiny thing. There's like literally no comparison there. economically, politically, culturally, socially. It's utterly ignorant for anyone to make such a comparison. There is literally no other nation in the world that is similar to the United Kingdom. No other nation in the world. That's why this is such a unique debate. Top academic. Okay, well, you might be an academic, but have you opened an atlas? That would be my question to you, sir. Open an atlas and then start thinking. If Malta can do it, oh, goodness sake. You do need to have great patience in this game. You need great patience, especially if you do what I do, which is read the national newspaper. Okay, something lighter. We've got our competition coming up in a few moments, and it's for this fantastic little badge. It's the Queen's Jubilee month, and so we're giving out these Jubilee badges. That says the Queen's Platinum Jubilee E2R 70, 1952 to 2022 pin badge. And you can answer the question that we'll ask you after On This Day in British History. On this day in British history. Because British history matters. And British history matters because if we don't know where we're going if we don't know where we are. And we don't know where we are if we don't know where we've been. I'm going to say that again. We don't know where we're going if we don't know where we are. And we don't know where we are if we don't know where we've been. Okay, that's why British history matters. That's why we love it, because it helps also to give depth and context to our identity. And today is Magna Carta Day. Okay, the 15th of June. It's the 807th anniversary of the ratification of Magna Carta, which is a fancy word for saying everybody sat about and agreed. The ratification of Magna Carta in 1215, and that's considered the beginning of constitutional politics in the Western world. And it was a charter. Magna Carta means Great Charter. It was a charter agreed between King John and nobles from throughout the British Isles, who sought to limit his royal power as it was then and extract various rights, largely for themselves, from the king, including access to justice and protection from illegal imprisonment and those sorts of things. And, you know, some Scottish nationalists will insist on seeing Magna Carta simply as an English thing, as a purely English document. However, we wrote an article on this, and you'll find that in the threads on Twitter and on Facebook, which points out that the noblemen who came from all around the British Isles came from Scotland, they came from Ireland, they came from Wales, they even came from France. And the Scottish representative was Alan of Galloway, who was the Constable of Scotland, which meant that he acted when Alexander II couldn't be there, the Constable of Scotland acted in his absence, which he did when he went down to Runnymede and applied his seal to the Great Charter. So that makes it a thoroughly British event and a thoroughly British constitutional document, even though for most of the time, of course, it was applying simply to the realm of England at that time. And as I say, Magna Carta means Great Charter, which David Cameron, as Prime Minister, notoriously failed to know when he was asked on the David Letterman show back in September 2012, when he was Prime Minister, if he knew what Magna Carta meant. And he didn't know what it meant. You know, he didn't even make a stab at it, which was kind of disappointing, really, when you think about it. Anyway, Magna Carta means Great Charter, which he could have guessed that, couldn't he have? So that's on this day, today, Magna Carta Day, 15th of June, back in 1215. And while it didn't happen today, it happened yesterday. Let's remember the 40th anniversary of the end of the Falklands War. A little Falklands flag here. That was yesterday, 14th of June in 1982, when the Falklands War ended. After 74 days of conflict, after 651 Argentinian soldiers perished, 255 British military personnel and Royal Fleet auxiliary personnel, and 3 civilians during those 74 days of conflict. So that was 40 years ago yesterday, 14th of June. So let's fire out a question. Now, I'll ask you a question on that, and please send your answer to contact@aforceforgood.uk. And if you haven't done it before, you'll be in with a good chance of winning, and it's for this little badge. Okay? Now, the question is, today is Magna Carta Day, which commemorates the ratification of this document back on the 15th of June in 1215. What do the words Magna Carta mean? That's my question to you. What do the words Magna Carta mean? Please send your answer in to contact@aforceforgood.uk, and the first person there will get our fantastic wee Jubilee badge. Good stuff. Okay. Now, as some of you know, we've also got our crowdfunder running. Now, last time we looked, we were at £925. We're trying to raise 2.5k, which we really do need to get us through to the beginning of December. So, if you're not already helping, please do help. And one of the rewards that we've got there is this Falkland Islands mug, okay, that says 40th anniversary, lest we forget. And on the other side of it, it says lest we forget as well, with a couple of soldiers there standing to attention. So that's available at our crowdfunder link, crowdfunder.co.uk/p/union 2022. We've also got other things there on our crowdfunder. We'll put up some pics of them as well. We've got stitched AFFG caps. We've got them in red. We've got them in black. We've also got a blue Jubilee mug, and we've also got a red Jubilee mug, and of course we've also got that Falklands mug there with a little decal as well a little sticker that says 40th anniversary class of 82 from the sea, freedom. Okay, fantastic. Stuart says, I lost some close friends during the conflict and a very close friend on the 12th of HMS Glamorgan. May they rest in eternal peace. May they rest in peace indeed, Stuart. Ernest says the Falklands are near my home. Well, I know, Ernest, because you live in Argentina. Thanks for watching tonight. Frankie says, beautiful mug. Isn't it just? Ernest says, here in Argentina they are insisting a lot on Facebook to recover the Falkland Islands. Indeed. Indeed. Ian says, top rant, the Malta thing, that needs to be an excerpt. Okay, well, we'll mention that to our video editor to look at the Falklands rant and perhaps extract that from TikTok. We are on TikTok these days, and let me tell you, we're doing an extremely good job thanks to our very talented TikTok curator who's really knocking it out the park. And we are soon going to have 4,700 followers. We had a video last week that reached over 30,000 people. And most of our videos are averaging between 5,000 and 15,000 views, around about 1,000. So it's very good stuff, very good stuff. Marcus raises a good point. He says, how many countries that succeeded the British Empire became totalitarian dictatorships? People think that breaking up through revolutions is a good thing. Utterly mad. Well, that's right. And one of the things that we put on TikTok was a wee short clip from Neil Oliver just pointing out that revolutions are for the birds, as he put it. And that was a good video, but you know, it went from 0 to 1,600 in about an hour. 0 to 1,600 views in about an hour, and then it just stopped. It just stopped. I don't know what they did to stop its reach, if they did anything. But it was just flying off the charts, that little clip that we put on TikTok, and then it just got stopped. And it's only got a few extra views in the last 3 days. Very strange. Anyway, we keep fighting on, and we keep putting out stuff regardless of what they will try to throw against us. Yep. Okay. What do I want to speak about just now? Well, here's an important thing that we need to be speaking about. We need to be looking at Busting Indy Myths, Part 15. Busting Indy Myths, Part 15. We are busting Indy Myths on the daily, on the weekly, monthly and yearly until these Scot Nats see clearly. That's what we're about doing. And today we're going to address the oft-heard myth that Britain leaving the EU is justification for another separation referendum because it represented a quote-unquote unexpected material change in circumstances, close quote, which was somehow not known about prior to the September 2014 referendum. However, the reality, as we are about to show, is that Scotland voted to stay in the UK in full knowledge of the fact that there was a possibility that we might leave the EU in the future. We can demonstrate that the possibility of leaving the EU was not an unexpected thing in 2014. It was fully known about, and it was fully expected that there was going to be a referendum on membership, and everybody knew that there was a possibility that we would leave the EU. Everybody in Scotland went into the 2014 referendum knowing that was a possibility. Yet still, the majority of people in the biggest turnout in Scotland ever voted to stay in the UK. In fact, it was so well known about that both Alex Salmond and the official Yes campaign made regular and public mention of the fact that there was going to be an EU referendum and that we might be leaving the EU. Let's look, for example, how we were warned. Here's an article that appeared on the 20th of May 2014. Okay, that's 4 months before the September 2014 referendum. Salmond warns Brexit vote biggest threat to Scotland's EU membership. Scottish nationalist leader Alex Salmond said on Tuesday that the biggest threat to Scotland staying in the European Union was British Prime Minister David Cameron's pledge to hold an in-out referendum on membership by 2017. And that was a Reuters article which appeared on the 20th of May 2014. Going into Alex Salmond warning, in his view, that that was a threat to Scotland's EU membership. Not only that, but of course we'll remember that Alex Salmond, in cooperation with the British government, created this doorstopper called fraudulent costs. Although they named it after an exact anagram of fraudulent costs, which is Scotland's future. However, we prefer the original name fraudulent costs, which is how we always refer to it, even though this British government, i.e. British taxpayer funded SNP white paper, called it Scotland's future. And here on page 460 and 461, paragraph 266. What impact will the Conservative Party proposal to have a UK referendum on EU membership have? And this is the Yes campaign, Alex Salmond / SNP speaking. It is the view of the current Scottish government that the only real risk to Scotland's membership of the EU is the referendum proposed by the Prime Minister. The Scottish administration does not wish Scotland to leave the EU and does not support the Prime Minister's plans to hold an in-out referendum on EU membership. Very clear there, they knew there was plans to hold a referendum. And then they go on, following a vote for independence, Scotland will become an independent EU member state, blah, blah, blah. However, if we do not become independent, we risk being taken out of the EU against our will. There it is in black and white in fraudulent costs, also known as Scotland's Future, which was created by the SNP in collaboration with the British government and courtesy of the British taxpayers' money. So they were making it plain that they knew there was going to be an in-out referendum, and that if Brexit happened, Scotland would have to be obviously taken out the EU. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew that a vote to stay in the UK meant that there would be a referendum on EU membership and that there was a possibility that Britain would leave the EU. Everybody knew it. Alex Salmond knew it, the SNP knew it, the civil service knew it, everybody said it, everybody expected it, and of course the vote happened and Brexit happened. So it was not an unknown circumstance, it was not an unexpected thing, it was certainly not a quote-unquote material change in circumstance. So there is absolutely no justification, there's absolutely no honest reason for the SNP to claim that that represented, quote unquote, a material change in circumstances. Just more nonsense from the SNP Greens to try to baffle people who don't remember these things and who don't have the detailed files that we have got here. Thus endeth Busting Indy Myths, Part 15. And we're going to bring all of that together. And I was thinking today, we might do our next Union Heart might be Busting Indy Myths 1 to 15. We'll bring it together. Or we might wait until we've got 30 Busting Indy Myths under our belt before we do a Union Heart. But I'm thinking probably what we're going to do is we're going to bring out another Union Heart probably by the end of the year. And it's going to be 1 to 20 Busting Indy Myths. That will be another great document for us to have on our street stalls. Now, we had a street stall on Saturday. Must tell you about this, folks. Must tell you about this. Let's get some pictures up for our tremendous street stall that we had on the Royal Mile. There it is, our Jubilee street stall on the Royal Mile. We're flying the Queen's Platinum Jubilee flag. And we've got our Old Faithful, a forceforgood.uk flag. And lots of people coming up to the stall. There we go. The stall quite animated, I have to say, with lots of people taking our magazine and our stuff. There's a great stalwart, that's Bill. It was so windy that we couldn't strap the flags to the table, so Bill had to hold that. He's holding the Jubilee flag there, and he held it for 3 hours. Thank you, sir, for that excellent work. And here's an absolute legend who came up to us wearing this waistcoat that says the Queen's Platinum Jubilee 2022. And there was a big orange Jubilee parade on that day as well, and we've got a good picture of the banner there that was held. Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee. Lovely big banner there that was walking down the Royal Mile. So thanks for that. Okay. Now we're going to be out again this Saturday. And if you'd like to be with us on our street stall, please do just send us an email, contact@aforceforgood.uk, and we'll tell you where we're going to be this particular Saturday. And I mentioned to you that we had a big announcement coming, okay? So I'm very excited to tell you about what we're going to be doing on Saturday the 25th. Okay, that's not this Saturday, it's the next Saturday after that. We are going to be having a rally in Stirling, in the town centre, and we're calling it, why is it the 25th of June? Well, the Battle of Bannockburn was on the 24th of June. So we're going to be there on the Saturday, and we're calling it our Bruce to Elizabeth. Minor technological difficulty, as they say in Idiocracy. We're having our Bruce to Elizabeth rally on Stirling the 25th of June, and it's the theme is Bruce to Elizabeth, our great British monarchy, and we're going to be tracing the line from the ancient Scottish King Bruce right down to Elizabeth today. And we're going to show how in our present royal family the conflict of the past is reconciled within the monarch of today. Okay? So we're bringing it together, and it's all about reconciliation. Now, it so happens that the Scottish nationalists and the Greens are going to be wobbling past us at the same time, and they're marching out to Bannockburn Field, and their whole shtick is to celebrate this conflict between the Scots and the English, whereas what we'll be doing is celebrating the fact that we are now united together from Bruce to Elizabeth, our great British monarchy. Okay, and we've got some fantastic visuals that you're absolutely going to love that we've been working on with our folk here in the office. So that's an exciting day of action, which is in Stirling Town Centre on the 25th. And if you want to be part of that, please do send us an email and we'll tell you all about it. Now, there's one little thing. There's going to be a train strike that day, okay? There's a train strike on Saturday the 25th. So you're going to have to get there by bus, I guess, or car or something like that. But because at the moment trains are not running, maybe they'll be sorted out by that time. But basically, be there and join our Bruce to Elizabeth, our great British monarchy, Bannockburn rally in Stirling Town Centre on the 25th of June. Fantastic! What a fantastic idea. Now, here's our magazine. That's 10 years strong. You can get that. But this is the one. Happy and glorious. In this we detail Bruce to Elizabeth, our great British monarchy. There is the family tree, okay? Taking it right down to Prince William. From Robert the Bruce, direct line of descent. Bruce to Elizabeth, our great British monarchy. That's our theme in Stirling on the 25th. So please, you want to be part of that? Contact us for details. You heard it here tonight. And remember that the miserableists of the SNP and Greens are going to be shuffling by, commemorating the fact that Robert the Bruce beat up the English. Well, that's one thing you might want to commemorate if you're of a certain type. But what we'd prefer to commemorate is the fact that nowadays we've reconciled the conflict through our wonderful royal family. Okay. Now see that QR code up there in the corner of the screen. If you're on TikTok, you won't see the QR code, but that's the QR code that will take you to our crowdfunder. Okay, so you can scan that QR code with your mobile phone and you'll be taken to our crowdfunder. And we've stuck at 925 for the past few days, so we need to get that up a little bit. I'm not speaking to the people who are helping in other ways, but if you like what we're doing and you haven't put in a $5 or a $10, please do consider it. Please do consider it. And if you want to put in a little bit more, then have a look also at the rewards. Have a look also at the rewards that we've got there. Okay. Now, we have a winner, I'm told. Fantastic. Stephen Beer is the proud winner of our E2R badge. Now, that easy to enter our competition, folks. It's simply a matter of Check that out. Simply a matter of sending your email in. Now, we asked what today is Magna Carta Day, and what does Magna Carta actually mean? And Stephen got the right answer, and the answer is Great Charter. Great Charter. Well done, Stephen. Fantastic. Good. Well, goodness me, that's the top of the hour now. Is there anything that I need to say? I just need to say we're going to be out again this Saturday. If you'd like to join us, send us an email. We're going to be out on the 25th in Stirling. If you'd like to join us then, send us an email. Please do share our information around. And if you're not helping in other ways, one way that you can help us is to donate there to our crowdfunder.co.uk/p/union 2022. Catherine says, congratulations, Stephen, as does Susie. Stephen says, I've tried hard to win that one. Thank you. I'm glad that you've got it at last. TC says, well done, Stephen. Scotsman says he can't make Stirling, and the 25th is actually his birthday. Well, there'll be other opportunities, sir. I'm pleased to tell you that. Alistair Melvin says, congrats, Stephen. Alistair's a former winner of one of those badges. Well, folks, quickly just checking that I've said everything that I need to say to you this day, and I believe that I have, but there's always stuff to talk about, so always check in on our TikTok, our Instagram, and our Facebook and our Twitter each day, and we will be back next Wednesday telling you all about our action at the previous weekend and telling you more about our upcoming action in Stirling. And so, folks, until then, it just remains for me to say, as always, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the Queen. See you next week.